Hey everyone, it's Pat and Austin with Obscure Reference. Yeah, we're back.
We're
We
back.
never left, some would say. But we had to come back because one of the biggest weeks of gaming has just transpired, and we're here to talk about some of the biggest games that stood out to us. So Austin, you want to kind of walk through what we're doing here today?
Yeah, we're gonna go draft style, back and forth, selecting our most excited, our most interested to talk about, whatever you want to talk. Games from State of Play, Summer Games Fest, and the Xbox Showcase, plus Day of Devs, which I didn't get to see, but it sounds like Pat got to see a little bit of. And we're just gonna talk about the games with a note at the top because a lot of people need to hear this. If you see a cinematic trailer, remember that that's not gameplay and it may not be what you see in the end. So you can get excited. My first one, mostly a cinematic trailer, and I will get excited, but just everyone has a note to remember that when these games actually come out. Uh, and
Yeah.
I will let Pat pick first.
Ooh, goody goody. Okay, so I'm gonna pick. Let's see. You throwing it to me first. How dare you? That's totally fine. So let's start off. I'm gonna pick from the first showcase that I
Mm.
watched, which would be the State of Play on that last Wednesday or Thursday. I forget what. But I want to bring up uh, Tides of Tomorrow was one that caught my
Hmm.
eye.
This one was
Um,
crazy, and it's on my list, third.
yeah. So this one, you get the concept from the trailer, but then reading the actual concept of it kind of put it all into focus for me. If you don't know what we're talking about, let me quick pull it up so I know who's developing and who's publishing all that stuff.
I believe this
But
one is
essentially,
Digix Art or
Yeah,
DigiX Art.
DigiXart. It's being published by Deep Silver THQ Nordic. Um, but essentially, it's the makers of Road 96, which is another game I know people are crazy about. But essentially, you're following previous players that have gone on these different adventures, journeys, whatever you want to call it. I'm blanking on the actual concept of the game, but
It's called,
you
they call it
essentially,
asynchronous multiplayer, is what they call it.
yeah,
So
which I think is super
effectively, they
fascinating.
have this oceanic world where plastic is killing the world or whatever, and you go through these little, like, what would you call them, like almost like missions. But when you go down any one
Like heist
mission,
or
it
something.
shows almost like ghosts, like when you do Mario Kart races against your best time,
That's a good way to
of
put
like
it.
what other characters have, or not characters, but other humans who have done the mission before have done. And they
Mhm.
seem to intimate that it can affect how your game or mission progresses, which had me really interested because they don't really show it in the trailer, but or at least not enough to really understand. But it's a very intriguing concept.
Yeah, and I think what hearing about it and reading it and actually putting that in tandem with the trailer, it helped me put into focus of like the actions of these people will be felt by you. Like that maybe they pissed off this one guy. Let's say you cross that same guy's path. He's gonna be like, "Hey, you're back for more or whatever." Maybe not necessarily like that, but you're dealing with the consequences of other players' actions, while at the same time choosing to follow in their footsteps or maybe make your own path in order to accomplish your goal. And I think there's some really cool narrative things you can do with that. I know there are some like set narrative beats that they want to hit, but like essentially you are creating your own story with other people that have created their own story before you. And I just think that's super fascinating to me.
Yeah, I think the big thing with this one for me is just such an intriguing concept. Like, I'm not really, I can't fully picture how it's going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that's part of the intrigue for me. But also, just
Right.
in this world of so many multiplayer games, finding a way to put a new spin on it or try something different or really innovate in an interesting way is
Mm-hmm.
something that I'm very excited for. And I've been on record, maybe not on this channel, but in general, about multiplayer games being colorful. Because ever since Fortnite came out, anytime I go back to Call of Duty or Battlefield or anything like that, where they're dark and
Mm-hmm.
dirty, it's like it can become a slog playing multiplayer games that you just like repeat and play and play and play. So a
Right.
multiplayer game that has an intriguing concept and world and is colorful, so I'm not gonna like be feeling a drag just to play it.
Hmm. Yep, this one looks like it has a ton of replayability, a ton of things to keep you coming back. So I'm very curious to learn more about it. It's coming early 2026.
Yep.
And
End of
just
February.
one more caveat, end of February, perfect. One more caveat before we move on. If there's any game that we say that you saw this last week or that we mentioned that piques your interest, be sure to go on Steam or whatever storefront you're using and wishlist it.
Wish
That's
list it,
so big
yes.
for smaller developers. Really important for getting them in the attention of other people. So if there's anything you like, don't hesitate to wishlist.
Mm-hmm.
I've got like 37 games on my wish list just from like half that's from this last week. I'm
That's
pretty
a
sure.
week, dude. I have 151. Get your game up.
Oh, all right. So, all right. With that being said, what's something that piqued your interest this last weekend, Austin?
Mm. I think this is an easy one for me. By far, the single most interesting one of any game that I saw was The Expanse: Osiris Reborn. This is
Yeah,
Owlcat Games, who you may know from uh, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader, or before that,
the
they had fuck, no, I'm blanking. What is it?
the Pathfinder games, right?
Pathfinder. There you go. Yep. So top down or kind of turn-based RPGs. However, The Expanse, obviously based on the books and the show The Expanse, but this is a third-person action RPG. So really stepping out of the world that they know. But I love this developer. Rogue Trader is so much fun that I
Hmm.
am just incredibly excited about this. Like I kind of noted earlier, most of the trailer is cinematic and not actual gameplay, though they do splice some in. But this is hyperbolic, but this looks like it could be another Mass Effect style like sci-fi RPG, and I am incredibly excited. I had told Pat via text the other day, like if Owlcat pulls this off, they're gonna like step into another kind of like stratosphere of developer where a lot more people are gonna know their name, and that's gonna be a
Hmm.
little bit unfortunate for people like me who love turn-based RPGs, CRPG, like old school CRPG type stuff. But they do have Dark Heresy coming, and if this is great, I'm not gonna be too mad about it.
Yeah. Now this is definitely a little bit off the beaten path for me. I've never played any of their games. I do on the Pathfinder games. I need to actually jump into those, but The Expanse has always been a franchise slash property that I've never fully taken the dive into. But uh, you keep hyping up these owl cats over here, so I don't know. I'm keeping an eye on this one for sure.
They're my
So
favorite up and coming is not the right word for it, but like new to the scenes, I guess, developer on the bigger stage. Because I mean, they're making
yeah,
3 games at the same time right now, so they're not a small company. But
which is very impressive. That's no small feat, especially when you think of like the magnitude of the games that they've been putting out recently. So like, there's certainly they're newer to the scenes for sure, but I think it's just recently they've reached like the upper tier of like double A games and almost hitting that triple A, honestly.
yeah, I mean,
So
Rogue
it
Trader
definitely
certainly
keep your
brought
time.
them to another stratosphere, and if
Yeah.
they hit on this, that's where they really take like the mainstream
Hmm.
step.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
They were founded in 2016. It says.
2016. That's wild. Took them how many years to make Baldur's Gate 3? Like I'm just saying. That's wild. All right. Are we ready to move on
Yep. What's your
from
next pick, there, Patrice?
the next one? Sheesh. Well, I'm gonna stick with State of Play because I
Mm.
think of the showcases I watched, that might have been the least exciting. That doesn't mean there wasn't anything cool to talk about. I think my only other big one that I want to hit is what is it? I only wrote Tokan Fighting Souls. I think there's a marble in front of that Tokan.
There
I'm
is.
not sure,
There has to be.
but if the yeah, Marvel Tokan Fighting Souls. All right. Um, that is the new game from Arc System Works. It's a 4v4 tag team fighter featuring Marvel characters, and this one kind of came out of left field. Um, like, just like take two steps back. you got like three different companies working in tandem very intimately. You have Arxis, you have Marvel, you have PlayStation. Because this is technically, I think it's, I don't know if it's first party technically, but it is being published by PlayStation. Very so that they're all having to work in tandem uh, very closely, and I have to look. I think Arc System Works' last game was Dungeon Fighter. I could be wrong, but if you're in the fighting game scene, you know the name Arc System Works. You know what they're all about. Um, they made Dragon Ball Fighter Z. They made Guilty Gear Strive, two games that are still to this day played very on a bigger stage at Evo every year. Having them do another, what I'm presuming will be another beginner-friendly fighting game like Marvel Tokan Souls, based on a property that everyone knows and loves, I think is super, super fascinating, super interesting. I'm very curious to see how beginner-friendly it is because I'm no fighting game expert, but I could, I felt like I could easily dive into Dragon Ball Fighter Z uh, and just beat on my enemy like with little to no trouble. They made it super friendly to beginners, and if you want to dive into it, there's depth that you could really get good at it if you wanted to. And it's Marvel, and I think their designs are neat. I don't know. I just like Marvel. Uh,
I,
this one do anything for you, Austin? I know you're not much of a
so
fighting game guy.
interestingly, I'm gonna connect this to, was it Invincible that was a three team? It was a three man team. So I
Yes.
was watching the trailer for Invincible Versus, and they have now 3v3 fighting teams, and I was sitting there thinking like, okay, I get when we went from 1 to 2 with Mortal Kombat. I think that's where it started. And I was like, okay, I get this. And then I watched that one. I was like, what, like, what does really a third add? And then now that I'm seeing
Mm,
this, I'm like, what does a fourth add? Where we're like it feels like a lot. And I'm not a fighting game fan, so I don't. They'll someone in that community can tell me otherwise, but it feels like I'm just like
mhm.
taken aback at this point. They're like, how many can we put on your team at once?
Yeah, well, that's the interesting. One of the interesting things about this is that you think Marvel fighting games. Everyone that knows anything about fighting games knows you go Marvel versus Capcom, preferably two. That's probably the best one. There, I said it. But that came out originally like early aughts on like Dreamcast, PS2, and that was a 3v3.
Hmm.
3v3 fighters have been fairly common for a while. I think Dragon Ball Fighters is a 3v3, but Marvel took on Fighting Souls is, at least to my knowledge, the first 4v4 tag team fighter. And that just adds a whole nother layer of what you could possibly do in a fighting game like this. So I'm sure some people are like salivating at the idea of just what kind of build can I run with? What can I do to mess with my opponents?
It's even
Uh,
more like I'm watching because I'm watching the trailer, and it's like all
mhm.
of the people are on the screen at the same time, so they're like
Yeah.
like are like just stacked on top of each other. And I mean, as an individual person, I have just a hard time when you put that much stuff in that small of a
Hmm.
space, even tracking what's going on. I mean, if you guys have ever
Yeah.
watched our streams, like even when we were doing It Takes Two or whatever, like sometimes I forget which character I am. So,
Yeah.
like, but stacking all of that, that would be an issue for me. But
Yeah, and they said something when they were having the devs talk about it, and they said something to the effect of, and I'm not sure how literal or true this is, but uh, they say that if you want to, you can just learn one fighter and just have the other three as support,
hmm.
or you could learn four fighters and then be able to switch them out whenever you feel like it.
It's
And I
like
think, mhm,
the person who plays Pokemon and just super levels their starter and then just has the other people
yeah,
there to die while they heal them up.
pretty much. I mean, yeah, because I know with fighting games specifically, like I have a hard time like learning multiple fighters at once. So like I could totally see myself where I know, well, let's just do a Storm and then Spidey, Doom, and Ghost Rider there to like provide support, whatever. Um, so there's an interesting layer here. Marvel vs. Capcom did something similar where you could have them like you could have like Iron Man come out and do like a giant unibeam, but then you don't switch places. Like there's a special input you can do to have him switch places after he does that. I'm sure we'll have something similar here. I'm no fighting game guru. My one concern with this is that it's coming out 2026, and if I'm gonna play it, I'm probably gonna play it for like 2 weeks, then drop off. And I have a feeling this is gonna be like an $80 title.
Hmm.
So I will actually see if I actually go out of my way to play it, but it has my attention for now.
One thing that's super interesting, I mean, this is sure, I guess, three or two or four, but like the combos you can do, right? Like, I think the same thing,
Hmm.
like Marvel Rivals, where they made it so like two characters can kind of do a team up super move. And it's like,
Yeah.
even watching this, like, there's a bunch of that where you can get multiple characters together to do fun stuff, which is like the cool part when you think even like on screen, like Avengers and stuff. And it was like, oh,
Mhm.
Captain America like kicks a bad guy into Black Widow, who then like punches him in the face or whatever. Like
Yeah, yeah.
having that will be cool.
Yeah, if they can pull something off, kind of like what Marvel Rivals does, where like maybe you have Iron Man and Cap on the same side, and you have Iron Man shooting his beam to Cap shield, and he's like deflecting it or whatever. That could be fun, have a little interactions like that. But yeah, so that of the fighting games we saw this weekend, aside from maybe Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, which is the new collection done by what is it, Eclipse Digital, I think. They do good stuff over there. Um, just double check my facts there. But that one also caught my attention. Yeah, Digital Eclipse, they do really good stuff with like legacy games and stuff. Like they just did one for Doom. They have one for Street Fighter, I believe. That's probably my second. And then yeah, Invincible versus we kind of mentioned that looks fun, but as of right now, half the roster is Viltrumites, and two of them are nameless Viltrumites. I couldn't tell you the name of, so I'm holding my thoughts on that until we get more of the roster revealed. But it looks
Mm,
neat too. But Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, gosh, that's such a mouthful.
yeah.
It's probably the one that has most of my attention as far as the fighting game
It
scene
also
goes.
is not, this is not their own fault, but it does make it sound like it's a Souls like when like the first two conferences had like 18 Souls like between the two of them. So,
Jesus Christ, yeah.
and I will not reference a single one in my list.
All right. Honestly, I don't think I do either.
All right. Second on my list is Outer Worlds 2, which got a ton of coverage because it was Xbox's developer direct. uh, and I'll give you kind of the overview of this one. It's a RPG from Obsidian where first person like shooting RPG, or I guess can be. You can go stealth too, but I think Fallout New Vegas, but in a outer space, uh, traveling the galaxy, but with very over the top capitalism. It's basically a whole bit on capitalism run amok, and I would call Outer Worlds one a little not like necessarily polarizing all the way, but I think a lot of people considered it good, not great. And it looks like what Obsidian and they're kind of framing it this way is like they went back to their New Vegas roots and said, what of the stuff that made New Vegas great can we add into Outer Worlds 2 to make it even better? Um, and so there's a lot more, it's a lot more in depth RPG than the first one was. The first one is more like a 30 to 50 hour RPG than a 100-hour RPG. And so a little more palatable for some, but they're adding a lot more depth in terms of your companions, your leveling, the weapon systems, all of that kind of stuff. With the wacky, fun, jokey charm of the Outer Worlds world that they have. The one weird
Yeah.
decision that they've made, in my opinion, although they said in their direct that this was always the case, is this story doesn't actually really connect directly to the story of the first one. So it's a different um, colony. You play a different character in a later time in the timeline. And I didn't get to play the DLC for the first one, but it didn't feel like the story of the first one was like a finish to that story. So that's the little throws me off a little bit. But outside of that, I'm very excited for this. Um, I don't know if it's worth the $80 price tag. I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have chose a different game to do that with, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, obviously, this was Xbox's big game that they were putting on show on display. Probably the second most excited I was for what they showed. Probably the second most exciting game. Well, okay. There's a couple others I want to get to, but this one really did. As someone who hasn't played the first one, caught my attention. Um, it made me like watching and seeing what I saw made me want to go back and play the first one just so I have some sort of context going into this one. But it looks just I don't know. The humor it looks like it's just going to work really well for me. I think to the directs that they had immediately after the showcase, and they're talking about the flaw system, which
Mm-hmm.
was in the first one, but it sounds like they're really delving more and more into it in this one.
Yeah.
But the one that really just broke me was the bad knees one, where like you're just crouching, stand up, and your knees crack, and everyone turns around, and that fucking killed me. So this game has a sense of humor to it that looks like I'll have a blast with, and it, from what I understand, it's got like RPG elements, kind of like a Fallout New Vegas or Avowed, their other game that came out this year. So I'm interested in this. I'm very interested in this.
Yeah, the I just lost my train of thought entirely. Whatever. Oh, the capitalism jokes. That was one of the things that I think a lot of it kind of wore thin on a lot of people in the first one. It was like pretty
Sure.
polarizing because they were just very direct in their this is a hyper realization of capitalism, and they're just very directly making jokes about it, which I don't doesn't bother
Hmm.
me. It's fun for me, but some people really
Yeah.
didn't like that about the first one, and I don't think that's going to change in the second one. So if you weren't into that, you probably won't be into this. But
Yeah. That's
if
what it seems.
you're cool with taking a step away from real life to have fun in a crazy world where they literally have a tier of weapons that they call science weapons, where they do things like shrink people and then you can step on
Hmm.
them, it's like this is not meant to
Or
be that
bought some with
serious. It's
capitalism.
gonna be great.
Yeah, yeah. There's it gives me vibes of like Saints Row, but like not to the extent
Mm-hmm.
that Saints Row was ridiculous, but like bombarding someone with like slogans and advertisements as a weapon is just it's hilarious, man. I'm obviously that's not gonna work for everyone. Humor is subjective. Yes, subjective. Um, so yeah, it works for me. I'm obviously
Also,
won't work for everyone.
special shout out for the their sequel man in their developer
Oh my
direct. That was
god.
so funny. Like I knew what they were doing from the very beginning, and just like playing up the capitalism, joking
Hmm.
in real life just like they do in the game, and it worked for me,
Yeah.
so I enjoyed that.
Yep. No, all I could think of was John Ralphio or Sonic was guy pitching all these ideas for a sequel. I don't know. There's just a lot of good jokes, not just from him, but like from the employees he's working with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah,
All right, what
great
do you got
presentation
next
all
on
around.
your list there, Patrick?
Woo-wee. Well, I'm gonna move on from State of Play. There's
Mm.
some other stuff on there that I would like to briefly
Oh,
touch on,
Outer
but we
Worlds
don't have
comes
to
out
do
in
that right now.
October too, by the way.
Yes. Yeah, and shout out to Obsidian, doing 3 games in 1 year. I
Crazy.
know they had a little bit of help with Grounded 2, but that's still impressive. That didn't make my list because we didn't super vibe with the first one, but I'm not interested in Grounded 2. Um, where do I want to start with? I'm gonna move on to the Summer Games Fest and
Mm.
what they showed there. Um, Gosh, a lot of people vibe with Out of Words. I need to rewatch that trailer a little bit, but I'm not super sold on that. I will give a shout out to Into the Unwell. I
Mm.
got to pull that one up because I don't remember who's developing that.
This is a
But
weird one.
this one caught. I mean, listen, you do a rubber hose like aesthetic of
Yeah.
like 1930s cartoon. Like it's half of why I love Cuphead so much. But you do that kind of aesthetic, you put it in 3D and you make it a roguelite. Like, hey, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So it's Coffee Stain is publishing this, and then the developer is She Was Such a Good Horse, who I don't think I've heard of. I do believe this is their first game, at least on Steam. Um, but essentially, the premise is I don't even
A
know what
mouse,
kind
or
of
not mouse, a
creature
cat.
it is. A cat? Okay.
Yeah,
It was a little hard to tell with just how things are designed in this world,
I
but
think it's a cat.
um, I'll go with cat. I like cat. That makes the most sense to me. But he's like an alcoholic cat. He's relapsed again, so the devil pushes him into a well, and he goes into hell. And it's an actual roguelite of him trying to better himself and escape hell. But it's like all these goofy 1930s cartoony rubber hosey like
Yeah.
what is that? A hot dog? I don't
Almost
even
think
know,
Tom and
but
Jerry, like pianos drop out of the sky. He throws giant dynamite
mhm.
boxes.
Yeah, like very old school cartoon vibes, but it's like 3D, like the art style, they made it work. Somehow you wouldn't think that this kind of thing would work in a
Hmm
3D space, but it kind of does.
It almost gives
I know.
Tasmanian Devil vibes too.
I can see it. I can see it. But it looks like it's got a good sense of humor to it. It looks goofy. It looks weird, and this one just really caught my attention. So I'm super looking forward to this. I've requested to get into the playtest, so don't you worry.
Oh well, I'm gonna do that right now. Uh,
Yeah,
I do like this. This one is tough because it's so out there. Obviously, me and Pat both huge roguelite and roguelike fans, so this was always going to be right up our alley. I am similar to how I'm not the biggest hack and slash guy. Like melee based is not always my favorite, so that's my one kind of sticking point. We'll see. Um, so that's where I'm like I'm almost in between. I love the art style. I love the idea. I just don't know necessarily if I'm gonna love the gameplay. And so I'm actually very excited that they're gonna have a playtest because if I can get in and
yeah.
try it, and then I'll really know like one way or another if this is something that I'm really gonna get into.
Yeah, and I think part of the this is something I always forget when talking about this game, but it is going to have three-player co-op. So
Oh, okay, that makes it more interesting because then you and I
there
can
is
play.
that. Yeah, I'm curious to see how that works out and how that plays. But that, yeah, because that's just something you can do with your friend. I don't know. There's so much going for this game that like it's possible it won't be good, but I'm along for the ride for now.
Yeah. Oh man, that actually makes me way more excited for it.
No, super. And this looks like it's a debut from a game from an indie studio. Yeah, there's a lot to be excited about for
Yeah.
this game, I think.
It's going to be in early access. We don't know when yet, but it just says coming
Hmm
soon.
This is one you definitely want to add to your wish list. Get it in front of as many people as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, all that good stuff. So yeah, moving on. What do you have for us next,
And
Austin?
next one for me is going to be Killer In, not ININN,
Oh,
which
okay, interesting. Yeah,
this one, okay. So for none of you guys who have been around for
yeah.
when we did Murder Mystery Club, is that what it's called? That's right, right? Murder Mystery Midnight Murder Club. There you go.
Ah,
It's along those same lines where you're in this kind of like mansiony style building, but it's kind of like crossed with Clue. So there's two teams essentially, the what they call the wolves and like the sheep or something along those lines. And the wolves have to try and kill the sheep before the sheep figure out who the wolves are. So you think Dead by Daylight, you think Clue, you think uh, Midnight Murder Club, and the big thing when we played Midnight Murder Club that didn't quite work for us was it was kind of like almost once you learned it, it was almost like too quick to just the killing. There wasn't a lot of like it was kind of hard with some of the mechanics. It was dark. You couldn't really see, which works in some cases but doesn't work in others. This case, you don't necessarily have that dark mechanic, and it's 24 players. So that is both interesting and intriguing to me, and also kind of scary about the lifespan of a game like this. That can be kind of concerning if you don't have the player count for it. But I'm super interested to see. And I watched the trailer and went, it's weird that there aren't more like Clue style multiplayer video games. So the whole concept to me is very interesting, and I'm excited to give it a try.
yeah. This is one I wasn't necessarily excited for. I think of Square Enix multiplayer games. I think of Foam Stars and how they're not making any new content for that game anymore, and that came out a year, 2 years ago. So I get a little, I get especially nervous too when I hear the 24 player count. I
Yeah.
think that's maybe we aim for a little less for our debut game, but I think the concept itself is super interesting. It reads a lot like Trouble in Terrorist Town. If there are any
Mm-hmm.
Gmod players out there, the concept of the murderer killing people and the sheep being able to find clues on the bodies to try and deduct who's a killer
Yep.
and that's not even the only way to win. You know, you can also try to escape. There's like a million different things you can do in this game, which maybe it puts this game on the verge of being a little too complicated. I
Yeah,
don't
that's
know.
the big
This
concern for this
is
one for sure.
Yeah, this is one I need to get my hands on before I really have any strong feelings for. But it is, it's one I should keep an eye on, and I do think that it's interesting to watch for sure.
And it does seem to have the like Among Us style like mini game tasks too. So
Hmm.
as the lambs, I guess I call them, not sheep. Uh, you're not just like running around waiting to get attacked. It seems like there's more to do there than just hang out.
Yeah,
And there's a
yeah,
closed beta coming, so I have put in my word on that one.
yeah. I just requested access, and we can kill each other in this killer inn.
You are
So
kind
yeah.
of, it is kind of true though about the Square Enix part. Like I would give this one the mark of intriguing, but also like high risk. Like there's a decent chance that this is actually really bad, and there's a decent
Hmm.
chance that it's really good, and it could go either way.
Yeah, yep. I agree. I think this could be. I don't know. It's hard to say with Square Enix,
For
especially with
sure.
something that's not Final Fantasy. So I don't know. And even Final Fantasy's not guaranteed it anymore.
Well, that's what happens when you have 1,800 Final Fantasy games, and then you remake a
All
bunch
right,
of them,
calm
and
down.
then
Calm down. Calm down. Let's not say anything we regret. Uh,
all right, what's the
Shout
next on
out.
your list?
It's Final Fantasy Tech. No, I am excited for Final Fantasy Tactics getting a remake slash re-release, but that's not going to be my next pick. I'm gonna try. Now it is easy for me to be like, Resident Evil Requiem is super
Hmm.
exciting. Wow, wow, wow. That's probably towards the top of the list of one of my most anticipated games that was shown this weekend. However, I feel like I don't want to say a milk toast of pain. I want to highlight like smaller games. Uh, I'm gonna throw out Felt That Boxing
Yes,
as another one that caught my attention. This
so
was
interesting.
the a like, gosh, and of course Jeff Keighley's the one that shows it. Dude loves puppets. Um, but it's a debut indie title from Sandstring Studio, which is just perfect for a puppet game. Um, but essentially, it looks like an arcade boxing game, but you're a puppet.
Hmm.
And if you go online and watch the trailer right now, and you don't laugh at least once or twice, then there's probably something wrong with you. Um, but also, it looks like an arcade fighter in the style of Punch Out, but
Yeah.
there's also some other stuff you can do. And again, look at the trailer and look me in the eyes and tell me, wait, that's not a real puppet. Like it just looks really good for what they're going for here, and I think they really nailed it from
Yeah,
multiple.
it definitely gives big time Punch Out vibes. Super cool, super interesting, incredibly unique, and I think that's one of the best parts about it. I mean, I don't have like some super deep love for boxing games generally, but like just on pure uniqueness, I want to play this game, and
Yeah,
it is just from the trailer alone, you can tell it's going to be pretty funny. And you're just like this small, unassuming puppet, and then like one of the guys they're highlighting in these photos is like the Beast, and he's like 4 times your size. So it's obviously not meant to be like a serious competition. You're kind of being tested in all sorts of ways, and that gives you that arcadey style.
hmm,
I'm super excited for this one, which I never thought I'd be saying that I'm excited for a uh, video game with a puppeting kind of art style. And interestingly, there'll be two of those on my list because this was on my list, and there'll be another one that I will reference later that's also got a puppet art style. So
all right, all right.
who would have guessed?
I wouldn't have. That's for sure. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Looks funny, looks goofy. Easy way to get my attention,
I
and
did
it looks
think
unique.
watching it. Imagine if this would have released when we had the Wii, like you had Wii boxing.
Oh my
Imagine
god.
that, but with this, that would be so much fun. I'm sad that doesn't exist.
Well, wait. What could you do something with like PSVR or MetaQuest or
You
something?
could definitely
Maybe
do
there's something
VR.
better. But yeah, man, this just looks like a ton of fun. It looks like Rocky mixed with Punch Out mixed with Muppets, and like what's not to love about that? But That's all I got. I think for pelt that
All right.
boxing, dude. Let's see our next game.
I'm gonna go with which I'm gonna go with Clockwork Revolution, which we saw previously that we didn't see much
Hmm.
of, and then we saw a lot more this time. And I was intrigued in the first one, and now you've got me very interested with this trailer. Um, so this is a traditional first-person RPG, FPS, but the
Hmm.
twist being it's got this cyber or steampunk kind of art style, kind of Bioshock Infinite style almost. But you have this kind of time turning feature as part of the game where you can turn forward and turn back time. And I'm very intrigued how that's going to work in general, like even outside of the narrative of this game. But given the whole, steampunk adventure style with these crazy inventions and like a talking puppet and uh, gang members with ginormous mutton chops and like fully autonomous robots and all sorts of stuff. Like this is just such a cool aesthetic with an interesting gameplay twist. Like I think that's part of the we talked about Outer Worlds earlier. One of the things that was working against the first one is like it did everything well, but nothing really well, and it didn't have anything super unique. And I think this has that unique feature with this kind of time turning ability that you get, and I want to see really how far they're able or willing to push that. We saw kind of some of the more basic stuff in actual gameplay where like you could freeze a broken bridge and then kind of like jump across it or whatever. But they also showed in like more of a cinematic portion of the trailer some way more interesting, like bigger uses of it, like with real time turning and that kind of stuff that I find super interesting if it actually ends up working within the game.
Yeah. No, this is. Yeah, this one
Oh, and this is
is
In
definitely my.
Exile, by the way.
Oh,
Entertainment.
yes.
Who did
Good call. This
Wasteland?
is in exile. Are they? They're under Xbox now, right?
Yeah.
I remember that correctly.
Yep.
Okay. So yeah, this was like Austin said, we've seen this game before, but I think for myself and yourself and a lot of other people that watched that trailer, that really was like, oh, no, we should probably keep that on our list
Yeah, I'm
of games
100%
to
in on this
watch.
one, without a doubt.
So yeah, I mean, I was gonna play this regardless because the setting alone and like the aesthetic of it all, of like steampunk, 1800s, Victorian, whatever you want to call it, it just fascinates me just inherently. But then gosh, there was like a level. There was like this game that as the trailer went on, there's like more and more hooks. I was like, I like that. Oh, I like that. Oh, I also like that. And they put them into the trailer at like just the perfect moment for me to be like, ooh, all right. Because like you have the aesthetic to start off with, and then you have the dialogue tree when you're talking to when you're trying to talk to this guy to sell off some stuff. And this guy is like interrupting you. And you could either deal with the guy that's trying to get in your face, or you could talk to the guy you came here to talk to, and just based on that one choice, like there are consequences to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's such a cool way to do like an open world sort of RPG sort of thing with dialogue trees and stuff. And then like you said, we have the time turning thing with the little clock, whatever you want to call it, in their hand. Big Bioshock vibes from this. It just looks so appealing. Looks fun to play. It looks like it's got a good sense of humor too. um, it's hard for me to think of any reason to not be excited about this game.
Yeah, this one I think we don't have a release date or anything for it. So this one to me
Hmm.
is late 26, if not 27, would be my guess.
Yeah, that would be where I'd put it too.
Though they did
Uh,
have a decent amount of in-game footage in their trailer, which
mhm.
I did like, but even still, like this one does look like it's probably quite a ways out. But I will be there
Yeah.
day one on Game Pass.
Hmm. Just based on how they're wording their sentences, with Phil Spencer and all that, I'd be surprised if we saw this in 26. Most likely early 27, but it looks like they could easily put it out like towards the end of 26, but I think they're going to wait. We'll
Mm.
see.
What's next on your
Excited
list?
for it regardless. Okay. Gosh. I'm gonna, you know what? All right, we'll go this route. I'm gonna shout out Scott Pilgrim EX. That
Mm,
one came out of left field for me.
it did for me as well.
So I'm pretty sure. Let me look up who's developing that. Pretty sure it's the same people that are working on um, the Marvel Cosmic whatever beat 'em up. Oh my god, my name, I'm blanking on it. Um, hold on.
From what I'm seeing on Steam, yes, Cosmic Invasion. That's what it's called.
Yes, thank you. So yeah, being developed by Tribute Games, who is also working on the Marvel.
And made
Uh,
Shredder's Revenge,
but
which Pat loves.
yes, which yeah, immediately caught my attention. I freaking love the Shredder's Revenge. That is such a love story to all of Ninja Turtles history, period, but specifically the '80s cartoon show, or is that '90s? Regardless, um, yeah. So yeah, Cosmic Invasion, and now this. It's crazy to me that while they can work on one beat 'em up, they also announced the follow up to what a lot of people consider to be one of the greatest beat 'em ups of all time, and having the cherry on top of having Brian Lee O'Malley, the original writer of the comics, on to write the story for this,
Mm-hmm.
it just makes me, as someone who's only recently gotten into Scott Pilgrim over the last few years, like really excited. So I'm this caught my list of all the beat 'em ups that we saw this week, of which there were a few, but this one definitely caught my attention
I
the most.
interestingly, I never would have put this together until they made this, but it definitely is the right art style for a beat 'em up. Like just on his face, it looks the art style when you put it on a screen like that could just be like a beat 'em up game that used to be in an arcade like back in the day. It just works on the
Yeah.
screen, which is really great. And then obviously Scott, it's not like Scott Pilgrim is a kind of fantastical world from the beginning, so lots of fun stuff
Mhm.
you get to do there. I'm super excited that they went with a new story rather than like
Yes.
trying to do something with a story that already exists. And then obviously they made it so it's kind of like a multiversal almost. It's one universe, but like you're kind of break because of
It's yeah.
her ability. They kind of like go to different places in time and space. So you get to do a
Mhm.
lot of fun stuff. I think it's got like you said with with O'Malley coming back, it's like the right kind of blueprint for the story. It's got the right aesthetic, and they have so much freedom with that world to just do a ton of different things that it's got all of the right elements to be a really good beat 'em up.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. Like Tribute Games is so good at like emulating different aspects of uh the game of what's come before. Like Ninja Turtles kind of has aspects of the Ninja Turtle arcade games from way in the past that are still great to this day. Um, and then Marvel Cosmic again has some of the aspects of different Marvel arcade beat 'em ups from back in the day as well. And this is looking like it's following up on the Scott Pilgrim beat 'em up. That wasn't necessarily in arcades. Maybe it was. I don't know.
And more
But
music too.
yeah,
I forgot to mention that.
more music from Anamanaguchi, which can't be mad about.
Nope.
That is such a great pull. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm curious to see what the cast is. I think Jeff Keighley was very specific in his wording of its former rivals, so I'll be curious to see what that means. Probably not Sex Bomb. They're not rivals, but maybe. Who knows? I don't know. I could go all day. I could go a lot longer on this, so I'm gonna leave it at that. But I'm very excited to see what this turns out into. And that's 2026 is all we have for a release window. Yeah, thanks, Scott Pilgrim. All right,
Next
we got.
on my list, what I referenced earlier with the second puppety art style is Sea of Remnants, which is a uh, RPG pirate, like a
Oh,
pirate RPG, effectively. Which, if you know me, you know that I've been claiming for a long time there are not enough pirate games out there. It's just I was a huge fan of Pirates of the Caribbean Online back in the day. Sea of Thieves is obviously great, but we should have more than we do. Um, and this one's almost got some like Expedition 33 style, like turn based uh, gameplay to it. It looks like there wasn't a lot of real gameplay there, but we did see the kind of like hit counters show up. it's got this really cool because the character got this like kind of puppety aesthetic. They are really bright with all of the colors. There's lots of kind of fun design choices. It's not like super realistic, but very beautiful. But you get the over the top like crab monsters and giant squids, and you can get all of that kind of stuff to fight. All with this, what seems to be a very deep RPG. Um, Again, cinematic trailer mostly, so we'll kind of see how that all plays out. But this one's coming from uh, Joker Studio. So let's see. This is their first game. It shows us on Steam, being released as the publisher being NetEase Games, which most recently I would say is known for Marvel Rivals.
Mhm. That's a big one lately.
And so yeah, I am super excited for. Holy shit! I didn't actually. Okay, I'm reading the Steam. It says bond with 300 plus companions. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, this is one I was excited for until I found out. I think it's also being put out on mobile at the same time. It's free to play Oceanic Adventure RPG. Like the aesthetic of it, the potential gameplay of it looked great,
Yeah,
but it reads to me like this could be something along the lines of like not necessarily the same, but something like a Genshin Impact, where it is you're spending currency to like recruit new party members and then sailing the open seas to
yeah. I
like
would say it definitely reads close to a gotcha game. I don't know if it's all the way there,
yeah.
but it definitely might be towing the line.
Yeah, because I think you get that initial hit where they sneak up on that one guard, and then there's like a roulette that rolls, and you know whatever, and then there's just multiple moments throughout this trailer that I was like, oh, okay, I really fuck with the aesthetic. I think this RPG ishness thing that I think we saw towards the end gave me Expedition 33 vibes. Um, and there's just a lot that could work for this game. I'm just holding my hope until it's actually on, people get their hands on it, because to me it reads like this is a really well made potential gotcha game.
Yeah, which I mean, I think it puts it in the same boat as the one we were talking before, where with like Killer In, where it's like intriguing
Yeah.
concept, could be really good, could also be really bad. Who knows?
Yes.
Which is, I
Yeah.
mean, that's the case that you get when you get these mostly cinematic trailers, right? Which is why we put the
Hmm.
disclaimer at the front. Like, I don't know what the game's gonna actually turn out to be like, but it looks cool.
Yeah. No, and then sometimes you don't even until you read the press release that they put out, and it's like even that's probably going to try and fool you a little bit. But I agree we don't have nearly enough open world pirate games. I think Black Flag really opened the door for that. But Sea of Thieves is as popular as it is today because people want that. People want to be sailing the open seas. So I'm totally open to this being great and incredible, and I'm looking. I'd love that truly.
It does also say to me on Steam that it's similar to games I've played, and the two games it has is Rogue Trader and Baldur's Gate 3. So I
Huh.
don't know if that means anything, but if it does, that's good company right there.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, I mean, I don't know. NetEase, people could say what they want about NetEase, but Marvel Rivals is a well polished product, and it's hard for me to be not excited for that. So I'll
For
definitely be
sure.
keeping an eye on this because I'm not interested.
Mm-hmm. All right, what you got next on your list?
What do I got next on my list? I want to shout out Blighted. This was
Mm.
Drinkbox's new game. It looks like Hades, but it's a Metroidvania, I think. Uh, This was first shown off at Summer Games Fest, and then they did a more deeper dive into it at Day of the Devs. This one is, let me pull it up real quick. You're essentially, the whole concept is, I keep tuning out anytime they try to explain the premise of this game, which is, says a lot about me. But
They call it
uh,
a psychedelic Western nightmare.
mhm. So see here. Yeah, so the dead, here's off the Steam page. In the past, the dead were buried with seeds planted in their brains. These seeds would grow into trees bearing fruit and imbued with memories. Knowledge was passed down through the fruit of memory trees for generations. And then someone comes along and exploits that and ruins everything for everyone. Uh, So you're the lone survivor of this guy who's ruined this tree of knowledge rampage, and you're basically going through this blighted world trying to reclaim the memories of your people before your own blight overtakes you. Um, and just the art style alone, man, like there's a lot I could praise about this. Like, but the art style looks great.
Very
I
distinct.
It looks like there's co-op,
There is, yep.
which makes sense. I think most of Drinkbox's stuff has had
Drop in,
co-op.
drop out co-op too.
Perfect. But it's got a creepy, yeah, Western psychedelic's a good way to put it. But it's Drinkbox. They made Guacamelee 1 and 2. They made Nobody Saves the World. So like they know how to make a good Metroidvania like game. So I'm. It looks like it plays like Hades a little bit too. So I'm. This one has my attention fully.
This is one of those ones
Yeah.
where I started out very in, and the more I saw, the more kind of out I was. Not because
Mm,
it looked bad in any way, but it's not. This is kind of like what we were talking about before, where melee based, kind of top
mm,
down like this is not something that I do well with. So I was like
yeah.
super interested in the beginning when it was the cinematic, and it's got this really surreal, like demonic Western psychedelic kind of vibe going on. That's super interesting. And then when we started to see gameplay, I was like, that's going to be great for someone who's into that, but
Mm,
I'm not. I'm probably not going to be able to. Like, it would have to take somewhat like it coming out to like rave reviews or something like that, and then I would probably have to give it a try, especially because there's co-op, so we could play. But
mhm.
not something that gameplay wise really speaks to me.
Yeah, and I think if this is anything like Nobody Saves the World or Guacamelee as far as quality goes, I can see myself picking this up, playing it for a few hours, and then moving on. But like, it looks like I'll have a really good few hours with this game. Um, but
It also does kind of remind
who
me of
knows?
Dune Crawl, the demo we played.
Oh yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, I like that. That's a good call. But yeah, that's coming out 26. We don't actually have a date on that. A lot of these games are just going to be 2026,
Yep.
or whatever that's worth. I actually do have another game that I'll get to in a second that has a hard release date. But yeah, no, I'm super interested in this. I'll be keeping an eye on that. Box makes at the very least a good game.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, what is next on your list there, Sir
I'm
Austin?
gonna put two together because they're
Okay.
both from the same company, and that's
Mm,
Atomic Heart 2 and The Cube. Which we'll start with The Cube because I think, although I do think Atomic Heart 2 looks interesting, The Cube looks really interesting in concept. Uh, so it's in the world of Atomic Heart, which I didn't know much of anything about until I saw the trailer for Atomic Heart 2, and now I'm Atomic Heart is on 1 is on sale right now, so I'm gonna buy it and play it. But the Cube is an MMORPG shooter, so think along the lines of Destiny, but it's on. They call it the Cube because the world, I guess, is a big cube and it spins. So like you can be playing and then instead of the kind of terrain being stagnant and you playing the same level and over and over again, different parts of the cube spin, and so it can change the kind of gameplay play loop and the environment around you as you play. And that as a concept to me is super interesting. This was a basically purely cinematic trailer, so we saw almost nothing in terms of gameplay. I have no idea what that part of it will look like, but on a conceptual level, that's just a super intriguing idea to me. And so I'm very excited to see what that looks like, especially when you tie that in with Atomic Heart 2, which, from what I can tell, has looks to be really tight kind of FPS um, gameplay, and then they're taking basically what was more of like a I guess a puzzle style RPG from the first one and really digging deep into the RPG elements in Atomic Heart 2. Um, and I am very excited for both. The aesthetic of these games in this world looks super good, and this is the kind of game that if they pull it off, both of these, I will just dive deep into and spend a ton of time on. Kind of like Cyberpunk, where once I started playing it, I couldn't stop playing it until I was done. Like I just didn't want anything else but this and just be immersed in what's going on.
yeah, no, I had to really stop and think about when I first saw this. Like, when did the first Atomic Heart came out? I remember reception to that was a little bit middling, so I'd never bothered playing or diving into it. But I was always like intrigued at the very least because I think the idea of like, robots or whatever coming to life like that was interesting. And then to have a second game set in the same world but in a different area, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with Outer Worlds. And they came out swinging with that first cinematic trailer for the second one. I think
Yes.
that was really caught my attention, and I'm interested. Like that was just good marketing on their part. Um, we didn't actually see a whole lot of like actual gameplay. I don't think we saw any of it, being honest. But it looks good. It looks interesting. It looks fun. I'm excited to hear more about that. But yeah, I'm super intrigued in what this cube could be. It gave me a little bit of the new Dune MMORPG vibes, where like things will be shifting. Like you go out into like the super sandy place on Arrakis, where like every week your builds are like reset or whatever. And it feels like there's a similar energy to what this cube is, where like things will be changing constantly. Um, I think that's an intriguing premise, and the fact that it's all set within the same world with the same kind of aesthetic. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. I need to see more of it, but I'm absolutely keeping an eye on that.
Yeah, the trailer for Atomic Hearts 2 that was like I mean, they are both basically also animatic trailers, but it reminded me of the first trailer we saw for Atomfall, where it was like
Yes.
in this where they just basically threw all of the crazy at you. They're like, this is all of the aesthetic, all of the weird like robots and environments and everything. We're just gonna throw it all in your face, and it's gonna be so good that you're gonna not even know what the gameplay is, but you're gonna be excited for this. And I am excited for it, and it is gonna get me to pay the $20 or whatever to buy Atomic Hearts on sale and play it.
Yeah. Yep. No, it did exactly what it needed to do as far as promotional material goes. So yeah, I'm interested in this.
What else you got? You still got more on your list?
I've got a few I'd like to touch on before I move on from Summer Games Fest. I'd like to quick shout out Meet of the Hollower that has a demo out now on Steam. That's made by Yacht Club, who did Shovel Knight. That's coming out October, I believe. And I've played through the demo. I'm probably gonna play it through a second time. Like that's just a solid ass game. And shout out to the Wu Tang game finally being announced. We finally have,
I can't believe that exists.
that out in the world. I'm keeping an eye on that. Um, you'll remember Ghostface Killa as a supporting. Actually, no, he wrote the track that you hear when you fight Shredder in Shredder's Revenge. So tying it all together, her thread connects us all. And also shout out to Stranger Than Heaven, the new Ryuga Gotoku game, the Yakuza devs, and then Ari Requiem. But I want to quick. My next big one is it's one we've seen before. I think at a different state of play, but this was at Day of the Devs. We had a deeper dive on what this game actually is. It's called Big Walk. It's from the people that made Untitled Goose Game. Um,
Oh yeah,
it's yeah, House is the name of the developer, and they were do the on Day of the Devs. They were kind of walking through it and kind of explaining exactly what the hell you're doing in this game.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it is essentially what it sounds like, but there's so much more to it than that. You can have I don't know how many people you can have walking with you, but you're out these weird little bird things, and there's proximity chat, there's proximity text chat. Um, I encourage everyone that's watching this to go watch Day of the Dead, or at least the segment on this game, because they do a really like you never see the developers actually. They're talking through their characters in game, but there's like a bunch of puzzles scattered throughout this world that you're walking in, and the objective of the game. I'm not sure what the main objective is, but you get to it by doing all these different puzzles, and a lot of that is you communicating with your teammates or doing whatever it is you need to in order to solve the puzzle. And it looked like there were some puzzles that might require multiple guys, but maybe there's a way to work around it with just two. Like they've made these puzzles open in a way where you can solve them how you want to. And it just looks fun and goofy. Like you could put this on with your friends, just walk around and talk for hours, maybe not even getting anything done, and you'll have a great time. So I really want to shout this one out. I don't know if we have a release date for it yet.
We do not. It
Um,
just says 26.
2026. which is fine. They can take their time with it. But it just looks goofy and fun. Like you can put this on with your friends and have a great time. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, this is the right amount of weird and wacky and multiplayer for you, John, and I.
Hmm.
Where we'll just do a bunch of
This,
dumb stuff. And will we get to the end? Who knows? But we'll have a lot of fun
mm,
messing around in it.
yeah, like this is when you could get lost in. Yeah, like there's one where there's like a soundproof. I'm looking at the previews on Steam, but there's one where you're like trapped behind a soundproof glass, and you can either like do a dance or you can hold up pictures, like try and tell your teammates what you got to do. Like
Mm-hmm.
it just looks like it'll be goofy and relaxing and also chaotic at the same time. So yeah. Anything more on this, or do you want to move on to your next game? Or
We can go forward. I'm gonna put two together again, but because they're both Lego, so I'll
okay,
do those two together. The first one being Lego
sure.
Voyagers, which is like a It Takes Two style cooperative puzzle adventure, but where you're both one by one Lego eyes, and you go around
Hmm.
this world, and you can actually like basically build bridges and stuff like that with the pieces, and you kind of put it all together to explore and puzzle your way across the world. And obviously, after we did the run of all of the, It Takes Two and A Way Out and all of that, more in that genre is always awesome. So I'm
Hmm.
going to be getting that one and playing it, whether it's with you guys or with Maddie or whoever. But I'll definitely play that one.
Yeah.
And then the other one is Lego Party, which I can't believe this didn't exist before because this just makes so much sense. But
Hmm.
it is literally Mario Party but Lego, and I am so excited to play it because those things just go together so well. Like I don't need to tell you any more about it, and you should already
No,
be on board just from that.
that was yeah. When we saw that when that got unveiled, I was like, how has that not happened already? Like honestly, that feels like a game that came out like 2002 for like the PlayStation 2 and GameCube. Like
Mm-hmm.
it feels like we should have had that already. So yeah, that one I can't say did a whole lot for me, but that is something I'll absolutely play with friends. Like, um, I don't know, but Lego Voyagers is an interesting one. That is the second game from Lightbrick Studios. It's being published by Annapurna, but developer is Lightbrick Studios. They did Lego Builder's Journey, which made some waves back when that came out, like 4 years ago now at this point, as being this brief jaunt about, and I've never played it, so I can't speak too much about it, but it's a lot of what Voyagers is, but it's just one player, and people really, really vibe with it. So to see the same group making another game like that with a similar style and vibe to it can only be good. Like yeah, I'm very much interested to see what the puzzles in this look like and how that actually works with two people and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I might even go back to Lego Builder's Journey before Voyagers comes out. But
And it's being
yeah.
published by Annapurna, so shout out Annapurna for finding another video game to release in the world.
So yeah, yeah, I'm sure both of those. Okay, so I think I'm gonna take a page from your book
Mm.
for my next games. I might combine a couple real quick. Um, I'm gonna do. Okay, here's what we'll do. I'll do the ones I'm more excited for. No, okay, I'm very excited for all the games I'm about to mention, but the two I want to talk about right now are the new Double Fine game Keeper, and we'll stick on that for a second. But if you don't know Double Fine, they've done
Oh,
Psychonauts.
this is
They've done a
weird.
bunch of
Yeah.
games. Yeah, you've probably heard of some of the games they've done. They've been around forever. Now they're now under Xbox, but you're basically playing as a lighthouse, and you're walking through a visually stunning world as this lighthouse with a bird companion. Um, and man, it looks like it's one of those things where there's no words, you're not talking at all, but you're just walking around with this bird as your buddy, and it just everything for this trailer it just seems charming and fun and sweet. So
It's a
I'm
hard one
very
to
much curious to
describe
see what that
without
looks like.
seeing. Like you definitely need to watch a trailer of this one to really
Yeah,
conceptualize it, but visually it gives me Psychonauts but with a much better polish in terms of the graphical fidelity.
yep.
Um, but that same kind of weirdness like kind of makes you feel a little icky when you're looking at it almost. Um,
Hmm.
but very beautiful with this, yeah, weird like walking lighthouse where you're just like, I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah,
Uh,
no idea.
this is one of those ones for me where I'm like, I'm not gonna buy this day one, but if it comes out and everyone says this is great, I will buy it.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of Game Pass. I don't need to worry about buying it. It's just there.
True.
So I'll definitely be jumping into this day one on October 17th, which is a nice surprise. Have it come out the year that's announced,
Yeah.
and it only being like 4 months away. So yeah, definitely screams Double Fine. And while that isn't always the best thing, I think this will be a good one. So looking forward to that. And then the second game I want to quick touch on is there are no ghosts at the Grand.
Yes. I didn't put this one on my list, but yes.
This one super duper caught my attention. I think you watched the trailer, and this was another one of those trailers where it just kind of went on a journey for me. It started as, okay, I'm getting this hotel. Here's a groundskeeper. He's kind of a goofball, and he starts singing. I'm like, hold on, okay, I'm interested. And then it showed like you renovating this hotel that you're inheriting from your father. I'm like, okay, I like that. I play a lot of Power Wash Simulator. I'm in. And then it just keeps going. It's like, oh, there's also this deep cover conspiracy thing that you got to uncover, and there's like these all these mysteries you got to solve around town and figure out what actually happened to your dad. And it's like, all right, you didn't need to say all that. I was in to begin with, but all right. So there's just a lot going on here, and will it hit all that? Hard to say. But yeah, the developer, real quick, is Friday Someday, which is a great name. I don't doesn't look like they have any other games under their belts. So yeah, I'll be very curious to see how this plays out.
This game, this is the exact thoughts I had in my brain when I was watching this. First, and this is a deep cut from, I don't know, most people won't know this, but it reminds me of a bunch of the games released by Big Fish Games back in the day, which I'm just like, that's the immediately what I saw when they were doing the like, oh, you're renovating the like hotel type deal. And it's got a
Mhm.
similar art style and all of that kind of stuff that really got me. And it also reminds me when you get those ads of like the match three games where you have to like fix
Yeah.
up the stuff as you do it, which
Yep.
are just funny references. Not that if you don't like either of those things, that's not to demean this game because I think this game looks incredible. There's so much weirdness going on. You're like rebuilding the hotel. You're solving mysteries. There's like weird paranormal activity going on. It's like this whole crazy thing. The game that is saying is relevant to games I played is Dredge, and Dredge was great. Obviously, very different gameplay, but similar concept in terms of like this
Yeah.
weird mystery of the world around you. Um, I am super excited for this, and will definitely be there to play it for sure.
Hmm. Yeah. This is one. Yeah. This is probably close to the top of my list. If it wasn't for Clockwork Revolution and Outer Worlds 2, this might have been my game of the show for Xbox. But
This one got
it
lost when I
might
was trying
even
to
still
find
be.
them all. It didn't even make my list, but I'm so excited for that one.
Okay. Well, you got anything
I've got
else?
one big one and one small one. That's the rest of my list. So I'll just hit them both
Okay.
relatively quickly.
Sure. Sure.
The
Sure.
big one's Wildgate, which we may or may not play
Yes.
after this. I'm not sure. That or Jump Ship. We'll play one of them. But
Hmm.
uh, a super unique multiplayer first person shooter. So you have five spaceships all around each other. Or is it four spaceships? Four spaceships, or four teams of five. I think there's 20 players total. Um,
Hmm.
and you have kind of like a traditional FPS multiplayer game where you have to try and collect the artifact and kill the other guys to get there. But it seems like you can both navigate the ships, you can fight across the different ships, you can kind of fly. So there's a
Hmm.
lot of like different things you can do. It's not super linear maps or anything like that. It seems very dynamic and kind of interactive, and there's a lot of different kind of stuff going on in that sense. So that's super interesting. Kind of like when we were talking about Tides of Tomorrow. I just love new concepts for multiplayer games because I
Yep.
don't need another BR Splitgate 2 or another Call of Duty 7 or whatever else. Like I want you to try something new. And this is definitely doing that. So I'm very
Hmm.
excited for the concept of this one. And then just a quick shout out for Nicktoons and the Dial of Destiny, which
Mm,
looks to be like a D&D Nicktoons crossover. Unfortunate that it's got
yeah,
Dial of Destiny, like the Indiana Jones movie that sucks, but whatever. We didn't really see much of
yeah,
that one, but that one looks interesting, and I will play that one as well.
yep, yeah. That one screamed to me Nicktoons Unite for the PlayStation 2 and GameCube, which I played the shit out of as a kid. So if we can get like SpongeBob, Timmy Turner. I mean, we had the voice actor for Sandy Cheeks introduce it, so like they're into, I guess. Uh, that's when I'll at least keep an eye on to try out whatever. I am not. I have a hard time believing it'll be great, but I'm excited for it nonetheless. But yeah, then with Wildgate, yeah, that one just aesthetically looks pleasing. I think that's former Blizzard devs that worked on that one. Uh, Everyone's described it as like Sea of Thieves but in space. So yeah, you're saying all the right things. I mean, former Blizzard devs. I mean, that could actually. Are they the good ones that didn't do anything bad? I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I think they're the good ones, but I'm definitely intrigued by that. Uh, that yeah, I will quickly go through. I just have a couple more. I do want to shout out um, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. That one looks incredible from the people that made Blasphemous. Tire Boy was something that was shown off at Day of the Devs. That one just looks goofy and fun. Definitely want to give a shout out to that one. Um, you're you're literally a tire with like legs. You roll around it. It looks great.
It
Um,
gives Goat Simulator or Untitled Goose Game vibes.
yeah, no, it looks like a ton of fun. It just looks stupid and fun. I Anyway, and then Residents of Plague Tale Legacy. I don't know what that game's going to turn out to be, but it's set in the Plague Tale world, which I played the first two. I enjoyed greatly, so I'm always down to go back to that. But my last one that I really want to talk about is, and I wrote it in all caps. That's how serious I am about
Mm.
this. I'm not going to scream it. I'm just going to say Super Meat Boy
Oh
3D.
yes,
Hell yes.
when that came on
Hell
screen, I was stunned, straight up stunned. I was
it
like,
was
"This
too.
is me? Is that Meat Boy in 3D?"
In the year of our Lord 2025,
I
like
know.
God, this was a journey to me because and it was a quick one, but you see the green pipe come up and you're like, Mario, an
Yeah,
Xbox, and then Meat Boy showed up. Like, oh, because SMB, Super Mario Bros. Super Meat Boy. Anyway, um, yeah, this just looks great. This looks like the Mario 3D land of Meat Boy. And listen, I love Mario 3D Land. I love Meat Boy. Perfect combination. I'm very excited for this. This is early 2026. It's not being made by Team Meat. I think they're helping, but it is being made by Sluggerfly. Ooh, let's see what else they've done. Not a whole lot, but everything I saw here screams Meat Boy. So I'm very excited to try this out when it comes out early 2026, is what they're
after
saying.
after I got over the shock of seeing Meat Boy on the screen and I started to like kind of really key in on it, I
Mm-hmm.
I gotta say that I don't know if the 3D world does it for me, and
Mm-hmm.
that's probably why it doesn't make my list. But I
Sure.
was like just kind of shocked at that, and then just watching the gameplay with the 3D world, I was like, I don't know if this really just works with my brain. Doesn't mean it won't be good, but I
Yeah.
was kind of broken by that, I guess.
But here's the thing, because like you think of Meat Boy being a direct call out to Mario with the acronym of their names being the same, but like you see him next to the pipe and the camera pans to right behind him. I really truly thought we were gonna get the Mario 64 for Meat Boy, and
Mm.
I think that game could be incredible. But we're getting this instead, and I'm not upset about it. I am gonna play this regardless. So I think this will be. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about this. This just looks like Meat Boy in a different flavor, and it's hard to be mad about that. And if it's bad, guess what? There's still levels I haven't beaten the original Meat Boy. They're super fucking hard. God, this looks good. All right, yeah. That's the last game I really want to give a shout out to. I think. Oh, at Fate's End by the Spearfair Studios. That looks neat. I'm excited to see what that turns out to be. I think aesthetically, it looks really pretty. It looks like it's dealing with like family drama,
Is this the
generational
one made
trauma.
by the
Like,
people who made Spiritfarer?
yeah.
This one, I was so confused when I was watching the trailer. It's
Hmm.
is it a deck builder? Why are there a bunch of decks? or
I
cards.
don't know because it looks like there's also some 2D action going on, so I don't know what to make of it.
I was
But
so
I know
confused
people.
watching it.
I was a little bit too, and I'm still trying to piece it all together. I think visually it looks stunning, so I'm at least keeping an eye on that. Yeah, but yeah, and of course, being able to play as Michelangelo and Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Come on now, come on now.
How about the
That's all I got.
Minecraft crossover with Sonic Racing?
God, that game's gonna be like a strong 8 out of 10,
What the
and
fuck was going
Sonic
on there,
fans are
dude?
gonna be thrilled.
Doom in Tony Hawk? Hello?
Dude, this was actually like people's big problem with the first Tony Hawk remakes is that there are no guest skaters, like no fun like mysteries or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. I'm new to the Tony Hawk fandom. All right, don't hate too much. Because like back in the day, you would have like Iron Man you could unlock Boba Fett, you could unlock all these fun little bonus characters to skate as, but we didn't have any of that. And now in the same trailer where they first showed Bam Margera is back on the skateboard, you have Michelangelo, and then you show up Doomslayer. And I think if you pre-order, you can also play as one of the enemies from Doom with the like the shoulder cannons. Uh,
Also, oh yeah, no, you said Michelangelo. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I think they teased something SpongeBob a while ago, so I think they just have something going on with Nickelodeon in general. So I'm very excited for Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but that should be understood, and I shouldn't have to say that, but I did. Anything else you want to touch on before we call it a wrap?
That's all I got. A lot of
Yeah.
good stuff.
Oh,
I was thoroughly surprised, especially after State of Play, because I didn't. State of Play was just
yeah.
okay. Summer Games Fest was really good, and Xbox. I don't know if it quite did. It was quite as good as Summer Games Fest, but it was right there for me.
I'd honestly put Xbox above all of them. I think it's soured for me by having their one big thing at the end being Call of Duty, but
I don't know.
maybe this one will actually
That
be
was
great. But
that. I don't even. We don't need to get into that because I only have bad things
yeah,
to say about that. But like, what?
after teasing a new Halo, like it's crazy. Anyway, a lot of good games being shown, a lot of other
Look,
showcases we
Bethesda
didn't even
people were
touch on.
pissed. I know that. That's what I know.
They can what they couldn't have expected Elder Scrolls 6. There's no way that was going to be shown
What
off.
about Fall? I mean,
They can
people
cook
were
that.
saying Fallout, Elder Scroll. I mean, they were like Starfield. None of them were there.
Okay, Starfield is fair. That probably should have been there. Whenever they get the next DLC, I don't know.
If
But Fallout, I mean, if anything, they'll probably put out a remaster a la Oblivion closer to season 2 of the TV show. So
I mean, we
maybe that's another
know
shadow drop.
we know Fallout 3
Hmm.
remaster is coming at some point. So
Yeah,
that's the one I'm sure people were looking for there in terms of Fallout.
yeah, and I totally get that. But we also knew about Oblivion for months. It feels like so that could be just another shadow drop that we don't get until we actually get it. I don't know. We're rambling at this point. We're gonna call it here. If you're still with us at this point, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for watching.
What did you
What games?
like?
Exactly. What games did you see this last week that you were excited about? Leave it all in the comments below. Let me make sure that's in frame. And then be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you keep up with everything that we